Good morning. Welcome to another short pebble in the pond video on my testimonies of God. Oops, that's the wrong one. But I can do it first. Okay. The divorce. The word divorce. I must first say that I hate a divorce with all my heart, might, mind, and strength. It is the one single most diabolical sin and vow breaking and destruction of the family on the planet. Yes, there's a lot of bad things: alcohol, drugs, sex, these things, lust. But you see, men and women can defeat those if they're raised in a family that has a godly foundation with godly morals, godly values, and godly principles instilled in those children, and discipline and direction and boundaries and all the things that a young man needs in my case. As you know, if you've watched any of the other testimonies that I've put on there on Facebook, by the way, you just click on videos and everything I've ever done is on there on my Facebook site. And all the topics are listed. But this divorce thing is really diabolical because when you put a schism, a split in the family, you have cut a man in half and a young girl, the children, the aftermath. And there's a million reasons people say they need divorce. But the number one and only biblical reason is they're unequally yoked in the first place, and they didn't get proper counseling before they got married. So, anyways, I finally get married to a wonderful lady, my wife Susan, almost 30 years ago. But it wasn't so easy in the beginning. There was a lot of things that were wrong in me. Um, and so one night, we'd had several arguments in that first year. I was like a caged animal. I'd been free. I had my own business. I was making, you know, $1,000 a week, and so on and so forth. When it was busy, and so now I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old boy, and I have a wonderful, beautiful wife. But they have requirements. Coming from a divorced home, having no father figure, I don't know how to raise anybody, let alone myself, obviously. So we went through a lot of hard knocks there, and some of those will be on some of the other testimonies. But this particular one is when we get into a big argument or something, I'd say, "You really want to be here? You really want to be here? Would you like a divorce?" And uh, this last time, I think we've been married about 8 months, somewhere in there. I go outside to cool off, and of course I'm praying because I believe it, and I know God's real. I've already had several testimonies of that. And the thought came to me, Miles, there is no such thing as divorce. Never use the word again. And I said, "Oh, yeah, Lord, that's easy for you to say." And I thought about it and prayed about it. I said, "You know what? Let's just write. Let's just write. Till death do us part." We made vows to God, and we're going to honor them. So I go back in the house. I go over to Susan, and I say, "Honey, I am so sorry, and I will never, ever, ever ask if you need to leave or say the word divorce again." And I haven't. But here's the testimony. She had already prayed and told the Lord, "Lord, if he ever asks me again for a divorce, I'm going to do it and leave." And she meant it. So I didn't know it, but I was on my last leg. But the Lord knew it. And so that whole testimony worked together. And of course, we made up and near 30 years of marriage, and yeah, we've had bumps and bruises, and those. We've also had many testimonies, which will be in these short clips. But there is no such thing as divorce. It's the low road. You know, for Jesus said, "For the hardness of the heart, Moses gave him a get slash divorcement." For adultery, and that was the only case. Uh, and then Paul expanded, and if a non-believer just takes off and abandons you and never comes back, male or female, you can remarry. And death, of course, you can remarry. But remember, divorce destroys. I went through a divorce twice with my same parents because they were believers. And once they divorced the second time, they never remarried until till my dad died, and then my mother married another man. But the schism it put and what it sent me on was a path of destruction. She could not control me once I turned age 12, 13 years old. I was too strong for her and too wild. I didn't have the rod, like Proverbs speaks about, to save your child from hell. And it does work. But anyways, you don't chastise or spank your child inappropriately, and which I have done, of course, too hard or too long in my day, and the 5 children I was involved with raising. But the bottom line is there's no such thing as divorce. Get godly counseling. Pray for godly counseling, because that's the key. Believe it or not, I've had pastors tell young men that I was counseling and discussing their life with on divorce and marriage and remarriage and all that. And one, in this particular case, one had already remarried and had prior children from that marriage, and he had prior children. I gave him the statistics, 70% fail, and this and that, but God can bless it if it's for real, and all of the ins and outs. And he goes to the pastor in his church, and the pastor says, no problem. You can get divorced. God will forgive anything. You can't out sin grace. What a misuse of that scripture. And so he recommended divorce. He got divorced. Now he's on his third marriage. And the terrible thing was this guy's number one son, I believe, directly correlated to it, because I counseled him over and over, don't get divorced, you're breaking your covenants and you don't have a legitimate reason. There was no cheating or fornication, they just didn't want to be together anymore, fought too much and too prideful to get counseling, godly counseling, except from a pastor who said it's okay, you guys will get over it and you can get remarried and get divorced, and God's mercy will cover all of it. Premeditated sin comes under Hebrews 10:26, and it's bad. So he knew, this gentleman that divorced his wife, that he could not divorce her in God's eyes as a professing Christian with knowledge, because she had committed no fornication and they had married and made their vows to God, not to man or another pastor or some state. Anyway, within the next year or so, pretty soon after that, his oldest boy overdosed with drugs and dead. Now, some would say, well, Miles, you can't say God did that. Well, I can say this. There are no accidents on this planet. God knows everything about everybody, about everyone. And I know this. Chastisement can involve your family. If you're a man of God, claiming God, and sinning on the side or in secret or whatever, God will get your attention, whatever it takes. And it can be very extremely heartbreaking to the core, because some of us are so hard-headed and so stubborn that we don't listen any other way, unfortunately. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, get on your face before you enter the Word so you might rightly divide the Word and live your life accordingly today.